Good morning. How the devil are you doing this fine day? Sorry, I can hear myself in the background. How the devil are you doing? Hope you're all fit and well. Do you ever get the feeling that you blinked and a whole 2-day weekend was just there and gone? That's me today. Did a bit of writing on Saturday and on Sunday morning, but apart from that, whole weekend shot past in a blur. Starting to think that starting to check the calendar now actually, just to make sure that Christmas is coming very, very soon. I could do with a bit of a break because I feel like I'm running on nothing more than fumes and sheer defiance at the moment. We start today with some political news. If you're away from the TV or radio, I can confirm that Home Secretary Suella Braverman has been sacked at long last. There was a bit of me that was tempted to play Ding Dong, the Witch is Dead in celebration, but I don't want to tempt fate. Think about it. The previous Home Secretary was Priti Patel, who was evil, but at least she had the decency to look quite hot. Suella Braverman, just plain evil, seemingly had no redeeming qualities whatsoever. So there's a very real possibility that the next Home Secretary might actually have horns and a pointy tail, all of which segues quite nicely into my weekly column, which is called Progress. What progress? It's about demolition, but there's a bit of society in there as well. My take is that for all the claims about the industry having improved over the years, accidents still happen. Excuse me, accidents still happen, corruption is still rife, the industry remains predominantly white and male, firms go out of business with stunning regularity. Have we really moved that far forward? If that sounds like something you'd like to read, then you can do so following the link that I'm about to post in the chat. And given that he's just turned up, I am going to mention the fact that Graham Footy Williams, who, as we know, is profoundly dyslexic, but the medium system this is ignore what I was just about to say because this is a different thing. I'll come to medium in just a second, but good morning to Graham Footy Williams. I'll come back to that in just a second. In fact, I'll come back to it now. Speaking of writing, one final thing. Turns out, and who knew, I can write about other things aside from demolition and construction. And I've been using an online writing platform called Medium to share some more personal stories. I've picked up about 7,500 views since the end of October. If you find yourself bored with nothing to read, you might like to take a look. I'm going to post a link to that in the chat right now. And the point I was about to make about Graham Footy Williams is Medium actually has an AI system behind it. So if you're in a position like him, who he can't read, or if you would like to listen rather than actually sit down and read the words, you can do that as well. There's at the top of every article, there's a play button. Just hit the play button and you can listen to your heart's content. Works a bit like a podcast, if you like that kind of thing. Now, without further ado, let me roll the intro, post the question of the day, pray that I've got the right one, and we'll get the show on the road. Here we go. Do need to say a very, very quick good morning to Gavin Elson, who has just crept in while I wasn't paying attention. Just making sure I haven't missed anyone. Andy Dovell, good morning, Andy. And Ken Hatcher has crept in while I wasn't paying, and Jim Turner as well. So good morning to you all, one and all. Where are we? Yes, it is Monday, the 13th of November. Welcome to the Breakfast Show. I am your host, Mark Anthony. In today's show, Cabelco is working high in Ohio. We're checking out the Kiesel Open Day with Construction Channel Luxembourg. Packerjacks, not Snackerjacks, Packerjacks raise standards in mine equipment maintenance. We're going underground with the latest the latest word in mining wheel loaders. Plus, a bit later on, Emily gets her hands dirty. But first, we're going to peer back through the mists of time to see what was happening on this day in history. On On this day in 1673, Christopher Wren got the gig to rebuild St Paul's Cathedral, and I have to say, he did a pretty good job. In 1789, Benjamin Franklin wrote the immortal words, "There is nothing certain in life but death and taxes," as true today as it was way back then. In 1856, the Great Bell of Big Ben, I've written Bog Ben for reasons I can't possibly imagine, but the Great Bell of Big Ben chimed at the foot of the still unfinished clock tower outside the Palace of Westminster. In 1902, Joseph Conrad's book, The Heart of Darkness, was published. In 1940, the Disney movie Fantasia premiered in New York. In 1987, the UK aired its first ever ad for condoms. That would have been the height of the AIDS epidemic, I would guess. In 1995, the 17th James Bond GoldenEye premiered. Fantastic theme tune by Tina Turner, if I remember rightly. And on this day, very, very sad and tragic day, this day in 2015, terror attacks in Paris, and including the Bataclan nightclub, left 130 innocent people dead. If you've ever seen an interview with the band that were playing at the Bataclan, the Eagles of Death Metal, go check it out. It's absolutely heartbreaking. Now, I've already said that I've got a question of the day. It's not mine, but here it is, just to remind you what it is. Yes, today's question comes from our resident quizmaster and steel wrist enthusiast, Mr. Gary Muirhead. His question is this: would you prefer to be 10 minutes late or 20 minutes early? That's for work, your social life, anything. Personally, I'm going 20 minutes early, and that's certainly where I stand on these things. I was actually speaking at a surprise party last week, and even with an hour to spare, I was starting to panic that I might turn up and bump into the guest of honor and ruin the surprise. Many's the time I've gone where I need to go, even locally, and I've been there 30 minutes, 40 minutes, an hour early, and just sat there in the car waiting for the right time. What about you? Would you prefer to be early or late? Let us know in the chat. Are you a punctual lot or are you not? Love to hear from you. We will come back to that at the end of the show. So let's crack on, shall we? We're off on our travels this morning, people, and we're going to be calling in on Australia and Germany a bit later in the episode, but we're also traveling underground too. But first, we're going to the US, where things are happening on high. Let me try that again. Things are happening on high in Ohio. See what I did there?
I'm Jason Zoik. I'm an estimator for Synesis Environmental. I've been with Synesis Environmental for 6 years now. We're at the corner of 5th and Elm in Cincinnati, Ohio. Here we're demolishing an 8-story convention center plaza structure that housed numerous offices and meeting conference rooms for the convention center, which is directly north across the street. We're pretty tight on the west side of the site. We have an adjacent neighboring 5-story parking structure that remains that needs to be protected for the duration of demolition, as well with a 1-story structure to the south, which is approximately 6 feet from our building. There's some temporary protection measures that will need to be in place prior to performing the demolition near those areas. As you can see, we have shut down Elm Street and a couple lanes on 5th Street to accommodate the building demolition on these elevations. The main 2 pieces that are utilized to demolish the building are a Cabelco SK550D 90-foot high reach, which is equipped multi-demolition processor. So that's bringing the building down, top down. Then another SK500 conventional boom and stick with a multi-demolition processor to bring the building down to the basement. Once the building is completely demolished, to enable the foundation removal, we've contracted our sister company, Synesis Construction, to perform earth retention system, which will enable us to remove the foundations and the future developer to construct their new building within those parameters of that earth retention system. Then we'll backfill the basement hole, topsoil, seam straw, and a decorative fence around the site. The first high reach I ran, we demolished 4 dorms for the University of Kentucky, and it was SK350 60-foot high reach. Those dorms, They had basements, they were wood structures. They came apart relatively easier than like a concrete structure or steel structure would. We had to be a lot more careful, again, adjacent properties, high reach, you're working with elevated structures. You have to have a lot of feel for how the machine's gonna move and sit on a pile of debris. A pile of wood rather than a pile of concrete is gonna give you a little bit more flexibility. You're gonna feel that machine moving more. So you gotta definitely be on top of your game.
Still can't understand for the life of me why the Americans insist that Kobelco machines come in yellow. Don't know what they're missing. That turquoise is the business. Quite a tool, as let me see. Andy Darvell's just said. Fantastic high reach too. I'm going to go throw back to the chat. Our question of the day, which comes from Gary Muirhead, is: Are you punctual? Are you early to a meeting or a site or an appointment, or are you late? And this is the story of my house. Jim Turner says he is early, but if it involves anyone else, like his missus or his lad, likely to be more than 20 minutes late. When I first started seeing my other half, she used to live in Worcester Park, which is about 4 or 5 miles away. Before I drove, actually. She was 4 or 5 miles away, and we used to meet sort of roughly halfway. And she is late for everything, absolutely everything. So after weeks and weeks and weeks of meeting and me standing there, sometimes in the pouring rain, sometimes in the glorious sunshine, I decided enough is enough. So we agreed to meet at an appointed time, and I deliberately arrived an hour late, and she berated me for it, despite the fact she was doing it to me weekly. Go figure. Going to throw over to this. Gary, it is. I spoke to Kobelco Australia on Friday, I think it was. May have been Saturday, but probably Friday. The machine it's still going through its not teething problems because it's arrived fully formed, but it's just they're just running tests and that kind of thing, but it is actively at work. I'm expecting to hear about a film coming from there very, very soon. So watch this space. While you're thinking about that, let's have one of these.
If you are enjoying this episode, please consider supporting the show. You can leave us a tip at buymeacoffee.com/demolition news.
There's our friend Dave Paget, I would imagine. Question of the day. According to my parents, I was born 2 weeks early. I was born about a week late. My sister was born 2 weeks early. I'm still early. She's always late. Go figure. Yeah. Okay. Let's. I want you to picture the scene. Picture the scene, if you will. You're working at a mine site and you have a massive excavator or a face shovel. The slew ring needs repairing or changing. What do? Well, you could load the whole thing onto multiple low loaders, transport it potentially hundreds of miles to a dealer workshop, get the work done, and then ship it all back again. Alternatively,
lifting the game and slashing costs. The Packajax lifting system is revolutionizing safety and efficiency in mine sites across the globe. After more than a decade of development in the most demanding mine site situations, the Packajax lifting system has raised the bar, functioning as both lifts and certified stands at all heights. Change of slew bearing, undercarriage or side frame removal can be done in 3 days, reducing downtime up to 85% and cutting costs up to 70%. Our unique automated lifting system applies mechanical pressure upwards at all times throughout the jacking process. Loads are fully supported at every stage of the lifting operation, eliminating suspended load issues, allowing additional works to be carried out, including circular milling. Packajax lift units are specifically designed to withstand side loads. When performing a slew bearing changeout, the bulk of the machine does not have to be stripped. Bucket, stick and boom can remain in place, decreasing downtime. Packajax makes track frame changeout easy, designed to extract parallel to machine. Track frame alignment is precise, allowing fast, easy removal and refit, providing massive benefits in worker safety. Packajax offer a complete scheduled or breakdown service. We can comfortably manage all aspects of your project, from initial planning, including parts supply of slew bearing and bolt kits. The best way to understand how Packerjacks could revolutionize your mine operations is to talk to us. Tell us what you need. We'll tell you how Packerjacks will help lift your game.
Now, I thought that was pretty ingenious. Turns out we're all of the same mind. No idea how they go about ensuring the jacks are flat, which I would imagine would be a major consideration. Some smart thinking right there. And I'm going to throw over to the chat very quickly. Graham Williams says, ingenious idea. Best thing since sliced bread, he says. And that's a bloody clever idea. That will save a ton of money at a quarry, says Andy Darville. Gary Muirhead, very clever idea. Wow, that's some job at last. Something great for maintenance of your kit. Totally agree. And Ken Hatcher says, very good system. Stumbled across that over the weekend. I was impressed. Turns out you're impressed as well. Now, I'm going to stick with Jim Turner this morning because it appears we're not sharing a wife, but our wives share a certain ability. Women who are never on time for anything, but they never seem to be late when it involves going away on holiday to catch a plane. They can get their arse in gear then. So, my wife, if we are flying any time before 8 o'clock in the morning, she will demand, and I do mean demand, that we actually go to the airport the night before. Not 2 hours ahead of schedule, not 3 hours, sometimes 7 hours ahead of schedule. Now, admittedly, she's a bit of a nervous flyer. She does like to go to the bar beforehand, but 5 hours in the bar before we get on the plane, I don't think that's necessary at all. But keep your punctuality stories coming in. I will go back to because I think I cut off part of the Kent Demolition one. Kent Demolition says, according to my parents, I was born 2 weeks early, so I'm a fortnight early to everything. I'm not sure that's how it works, but thank you for that. Now, let's have a look. Where are we? I've no idea. I'm going to play this just to get me out of a hole. Now, things are about to get musical. So, there can be no question that Kiesel is right up there among the industry's most innovative companies. We've featured the work they're doing, taking Hitachi excavators and turning them into absolutely elite level high-reach machines in the past. Well, they recently threw open their doors for a massive demo day. Now, we couldn't be there in person, but our good friend Al Grierson of Construction Channel Luxembourg did manage to get along. I'm about to play you a glimpse of what he saw, featuring some music that I think Jim Turner might just enjoy. That is just 3 minutes from a far more thorough 10-minute epic from Al Grierson. If you'd like to see the whole thing, go over to Construction Channel Luxembourg. And while you're there, please be, that's on YouTube, obviously, please be sure to hit the subscribe button. Al deserves way more subscribers than he currently has. So thank you, Al, for allowing us to share that. Now, just a spot of this.
Since the finance bill came into effect in April, the construction industry has seen a surge of fuel thefts. The rising cost of living has placed an additional risk of theft by employees and contractors, as well as opportunistic thieves. By using diesel dye and placing warnings of its use, you are sending a clear message that this is your fuel.
When civil war breaks out here in the UK, as it seems increasingly likely to do, we can all find ourselves seeking refuge underground, which sounds awful, but it would be a lot more fun if there was one of these on hand.
In the world of underground mining, innovation is our tradition. Ever since the first Toro was started in 1971, we have been pioneering the way. As one great example, we started the electrification in mining by introducing the world's first electric loader more than 40 years ago. And today, our upgraded 14-ton cable electric underground loader Toro LH514IE marks another milestone in our journey towards the electrified future of mining. Our electric loaders offer zero underground exhaust emissions, making sustainability a reality. The electric motor contributes to improved working conditions by emitting lower levels of noise, vibration, and heat. You can also choose renewable energy sources for an even more sustainable operation. With lightning-fast bucket filling and unmatched reliability, our loaders are designed to keep your operations running smoothly on every shift. And unlike diesel or battery-powered loaders, there's no need for refueling or battery swaps. Our unique cable reeling system and 330 meters of cable provide an extended operating range. But that's not all. We take safety, productivity, and operator comfort to the next level with our automation system. You can easily operate this new electric Toro loader with Sandvik Automine, which is an industry-leading automation system. Today, we still continue to lead the game, bringing you more intelligent and more sustainable solutions. Toro LH514IE loader offers you a solution to go electric today.
There really is some true innovation taking place right beneath our feet as we speak, people. Now, we're going to hand over to the fairer sex in just a second, but first, this.
If you would like to buy a limited edition Break Fast show sticker, head on over to buymeacoffee.com/demolition news/extras.
The ladies are coming to the industry at long last, and contrary to popular belief, they're not just in sweet-smelling machine cabs with perfect nails and makeup. Some of them, like our friend Emily here, more than happy to get their hands dirty.
Growing up, I liked dolls, I liked the piano, I liked all the girly things. Eventually, when I hit high school, I kind of fell in love with fixing things and just making my hands and my brain work. By the time I graduated high school, I had been offered a full ride to Southern New Hampshire University as a music educator, which I declined to go to mechanic school. I was the only female in the entire dorms. My name is Emily Paquette. I work here at Equipment East in Drake, Massachusetts, and while I'm here, I am a welder as well as working in their parts department. What I love about working here at Demolition, specifically at Equipment East, is the fact that everything I do changes on a day-to-day basis. One day I would come in and be working on a motor job, to the next day I was working on hydraulic lines, to coolant, everything. There was never 2 days that were the exact same, and that's what I love.
Whatever it is that we need help, she's willing to do whatever it takes. It has really been a great experience to have her on board.
I love welding so much because I really grew up as an artist. You know, when you look at a weld, you can see fine lines in there, you can see the way things flow and the way things change, and you move your elbow in the slightest way and your whole weld changes. I make excavators pretty for a living, and I think that's probably the coolest thing I've ever been able to say. Knowing that my welds can outstand a hammer going into the ground repeatedly, and my welds stay and nothing cracks and everything is great. It's a very accomplishing feeling knowing that I was able to do that.
It is her passion for what she does, and she loves it here. She just became part of our team, and she's part of our family. She will excel in whatever it is that she chooses to do.
More recently at Parts Department, I am really working on their shipping and receiving, so anything that comes from anywhere external of our company kind of goes through my hands first. How cool is it to say that excavator that I welded on is helping build a hospital, or helping build a church, helping build a new highway. I think it's really cool, and I don't really know how else to explain that feeling. It's just really cool.
He wasn't able to use his axes. Right here. See where that T comes across?
Yep.
Cuts in. Probably got a plugged orifice back in there.
So probably 0808 T 080808 would be.
0808.
So I just have to go to the chart.
At the same time, if there's debris in there, let's swap out that pilot filter and call it good.
10-4, you can grab that off the shelf.
My name is Emily Loso. I work for G-Stone Commercial in Middlebury, Vermont. I am the Service Parts and Warranty Specialist. My role entails getting all the parts ready for the technicians, getting all the parts put onto the repair orders, submitting all of the warranty claims. I organize attachments. It's high-strung, it's chaotic, it's a lot all in one, but it's always fun. There's always something going on.
In this industry, you gotta be thick-skinned. It's a tough industry. The equipment's tough, the customers are tough, the mechanics are tough. You're not gonna walk in here and think it's gonna be all gravy.
I unload the delivery trucks with the forklift. So when these older gentlemen see me come around the corner on the forklift, they go, "Don't you have a gentleman to bring out? Like, isn't there a guy that we can talk to? Are you sure you can handle that?" You have to prove yourself. You have to know what you're doing. You have to know exactly what you're talking about.
I think it is so impressive for a woman to walk into this industry, be able to stand tall, be able to get into the trenches with the guys and show them, I can do this job just like you can. Let me prove it to you. Emily will be the first one there. I don't care if it's jumping on the forklift, unloading a freight truck that's brought a bunch of attachments in. She is like a sponge. She's just absorbing everything.
I completed the full Develon Bronze parts learning path, so I am bronze certified in the parts department. We have 2 road service technicians. A lot of it involves the proper parts. If a machine goes down and they have a DEF or urea quality issue, I've got the sensor, I've got the DEF pump, I've got the NOx sensors, I have the NH3 sensor ready. They have everything ready to go for that road call, and it's gotten so fluent with me that when they say, hey, I need, even if they give it a different name, I need a DEF pump, I need a dosing module, I need a supply module, I know what they're talking about. And I know where they are, and I know exactly what the number is.
The women that I have here are fantastic. They're all very strong-willed. They're all very forthright. They want to succeed as bad as the men do. In most cases, even more than the guys do.
Fair play to both Emilys in that instance. Really an inspiration to the fairer sex, and also possibly awarding to males in the industry who think their job is safe and secure. Wouldn't be a bad time to shake them up. Quote of the day, I think, is going to go to Jim Turner, who says, "Fair play to her. About time our industry became more inclusive to everyone." And this is a bit that I like, no matter what sex or who they backed for. Well said. I'm going to say a quick good morning to our friend Batshit Crazy. Good morning to you, and what's up back to you, sir? Where is Andy Darvell said something that caught my eye. Yes, there we are. Jesus, he's a scary looking guy, but I bet he's a big teddy bear, really. I would like to think so. Dan Cullen has made a comment. This is Woody, which is kind of political. I'm not avoiding it. I am going to come back to it, but I'm going to round the show up and then we'll come back to it because there's a couple of points that I'd like to make. Obviously, we started the show with the fact that the current Home Secretary, Suella Braverman, has at long last been given the heave-ho, and we'll be coming back to all of that in just a moment. So that pretty much wraps up the main part of this morning's show. I'm going to roll the outro in just a second before leaping gazelle-like over to the chat to see what you're all saying today. If you can't stick around for that, please stay safe. Look after yourself, your family, your friends, and your colleagues. But if you do have the time and the inclination, please stick around because I'll be back with the Craic right after this. Good morning, one and all. I'm going to go to the bottom of the chat today just because there's a couple of bits I'd like to pick up on. Here's the first. Chris Ford. Morning, Chris. Who cares what gender they are so long as they can cut the mustard? Is that not the idea? I listen, in many ways I consider myself fairly old-fashioned, but if somebody's up to the job, does it really matter if they come packing ovaries or not? I don't see what difference it makes, to be perfectly honest. Now, I'm going to throw over very quickly, and we're going to I'm going to do this one, and then I'm going to go back to the beginning of the chat, because I think this will spark some debate. Dan Cullen says, I don't think these Palestine marches are going to make any difference to these wars. It's silliness. So, my point and my contention on this is I am old enough to have lived through CND marches. I've lived through anti-capitalist marches. There was the big one before we went to war in the Gulf. About 1 million people took to the streets. We've seen all of those. Obviously, this weekend we've seen pro-Palestinian marches in London and so on down the line. Can anyone in the midst? I mean, I'm a man of a certain age, and my memory is not what it once was. Can anybody remember a single protest that has ever actually made a difference? Think about the one that I mentioned about before we went to war in the Gulf, in search of weapons of mass destruction, who we didn't really need to look very far because they were mainly in the Palace of Westminster, but that's a whole other story. So 1 million people took to the streets, and Tony Blair, God bless him and all who sail in him, looked at that and just went, we're going anywhere. Has a protest ever made a difference? Please let me know if you can think of one. Now I'm going to go back to the very beginning of the chat and see who was here first. It was a very close thing. Dan Cullen was first. Good morning, Dan. And Glenn Johnson was hot on his heels, saying good morning, everyone. And there is Mr. Steelwrist, the smooth operator himself, Gary Muirhead. Good morning, Mark, and good morning, gang. Good morning to you, Gary, and thank you very much indeed. Well, thanks for being here, but thank you also for the question of the day, which we'll come to in just a second. Chris Ford says, good morning, everyone. Not long till Christmas. It's not quite close enough. Now, I'll be the first to admit it, despite the fact that I have grandchildren and so on down the line, I am a bit bar humbug when it comes to Christmas. All seems like an awful lot of fuss about not a great deal. You end up spending fortunes on toot that nobody needs. You spend 500 quid on a roast dinner that the rest of the year would cost you about 30 quid. And so I'm aware of that. But the older I've got, the more I've started to appreciate the gap between this year and the next. I haven't checked the calendar. I know last year I did the best part of 2 weeks without actually doing this, and I came back feeling like I'd been reborn. I'm hoping it's going to be the same this time around because I'm running on fumes and anger right about now, which is part of the course, to be honest. Dan Cullen says, good morning. How is all your filthy animals and ladies alike today? Well, I am feeling mighty fine. Had a good week last week, I have to say, and got a good week coming up. Out and about tomorrow. Show goes ahead, don't worry. The show we'll go out, and then I'm going out, and then I'm out and about on Thursday. I'm going to London Build to meet up with Neil Edwards, among other people, so I shall be reporting back from that. Cameron's going with me. Whether there'll be anything to film, we shall see, but I'll keep you posted. Andy Darvell is in our midst. Morning, Andy. Hope you had a good weekend, my friend. Ken Hatcher. Good Lord, what is... Oh, it's an umbrella. I thought you had purple weather for a second there. So it's rain, cloud, rain, sun, cloud, rain, cloud, umbrella. I think based on that, I think you're going to need the umbrella. Morning, says Jim Turner. Morning, Jim. Thank you very much indeed for being here. Dan Cullen says, haha, Christmas, what's that? Just another excuse for a holiday. Yeah, and I'm good with that. Gavin Elson, trainer to the stars. Morning, Gavin. Hope you're fitting well, my friend. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. And she's not allowed into government either. Is that Suella Braverman? Is she being kicked out of everything? All I saw was the headline. I have not studied it. I say that. I saw that, and I also saw that David Cameron has gone into number 10 Downing Street, which could actually see Mr. Gammon himself back in the cabinet. People, does anyone remember what David Cameron was like the first time around? Yeah. Graham Footy Williams says, good morning, bro. There is the link to my article. Progress. What progress? As I say, it's about the fact that, we make these huge claims about how far we've come, how enlightened we are, how much better off we are than our forebears. And yes, we've done away with cloth caps and donkey jackets and replaced them with hard hats and high-vis. But people still die. People still get injured. Corruption is rife. Companies still go pop. We're still in predominantly male and white. There's no real scope for, as Jim Turner puts it a bit later on, there's no real scope for the fairer sex or people that bat for the other side or whoever they bat for. Not my turn of phrase, but I quite like it. So yes, if that's the sort of thing that might float your boat, then go and take a look. Speaking of all of those things, that's not playing it. That's more like it. Mark Anthony on Medium. That's me. That's the non-industry stuff that I'm writing. If you fancy reading it or listening to it, you can do that over at markanthony1965.medium.com. The link is in the chat. Go and take a look. So, Gary Muirhead's question of the day was, would you rather be 10 minutes late or 20 minutes early? We've established the fact that I would prefer to be, if necessary, an hour early, because being late, I don't know whether it's, I'm fairly sure I can trace it back to when I first started in actual business. I don't mean school. I was late for school on not a regular basis, but I was occasionally late for school. But when I started in business, I remember somebody saying to me that if you arrive late for a meeting, you are already at a disadvantage. And I think that just got lodged in my brain to the point where now I'm almost phobic about it. If a meeting starts at 11, I need to be there by 10:30 just to get my ducks in a row. Even, as I say, even if that means sitting in a car park, twiddling my thumbs for half an hour, I'm good with that. Who else have we got here? There's Dan Cullen saying good morning to the gang, to the cohort. Graham Footy Williams, by the way, didn't get the job. They said I was too far away. Would have been right candidate, but unfortunately they had to let me go. Hoping something else will come along. Fingers crossed. Andy Darvell says, question today, always try to be early, but always end up being late if we're going somewhere. Yeah. And here is a sign of the times. Back in the day, when I first got a company car, that would have been around about 1988, I would guess, about 1,000 years ago, just after the car had been invented, when I first got a company car. And for me to go from my house in Surrey to Birmingham, I used to allow 2.5 hours maximum. 2.5 hours. Now, bearing in mind what I've already said about my desire for punctuality, 2.5 hours would get me from Surrey to Birmingham consistently. I left here on Thursday afternoon. I left here at 2:15 and I got to the hotel that I was speaking at 6:30. 4 hours. It's pretty much doubled in 30 odd years. Yeah. Dan Cullen answering the question about punctuality. He would rather be 20 minutes early so he can get his machine warming up and a nice warm cuppa. That's better, isn't it? I do like that cuppa where you've got nothing else to do. Like, I like a hotel. Make no bones about it. I do like a hotel. But if the hotel has got tea and coffee making facilities, even if the hotel is a bit crappy, makes my day to be able to roll out of bed, flick the kettle on, make myself a cup of tea in the morning while I'm away. I'm a man of simple pleasures, and that's one of my simple pleasures. Chris Ford, question of the day. Always like to be early, de-stress before the real day starts. Yeah, totally agree. Particularly given the state of the roads these days. I don't know about you, but I tend to arrive most places completely fraught, having narrowly escaped with my life on Britain's roads. So to actually get there, as Chris said, de-stress, decompress a little bit, and then start work. Question of the day, Gary Muirhead, who came up with the question in the first place. I'm a 10-minute early person, can't be doing with the rushing about at the last minute. Even on site, I like to get there about 30 minutes before the start time. I think we're all of one mind on this, to be honest. Glenn Johnson says, always like to be early. Dan Cullen says they need to release that condom ad again. These youngsters are as mad as ever and unsafe. I must admit, and I'm not going to go into the gory details because nobody needs that at this time on a Monday morning, but I did most of my growing up, shall we call it, pre-AIDS. Yeah, I mean, I met my other half in 88, by which time I'd grown up. Read between the lines, people, you know what I'm saying. So yes, I mean, I parted with the best of them, pre-AIDS. Didn't have that to worry about. You imagine that now, having that, or not so much now, but you know, certainly 30 odd years ago, 20 years ago, having that potentially hanging over your head. Because let's face it, young people, they quite like the opposite sex. They also quite like the same sex. You imagine having that hanging over your head. Ken Hatter is going 20 minutes early, as I expected he would. I love the early is best weight, early bird catches the worm, says Graham Footy Williams. I'm totally in agreement with that. As I said, going back to when I first started in business, you're at a disadvantage if you arrive late. Imagine turning up to a meeting and finding out that decisions have been made on your behalf because you turned up late. That would really bug me. Question of the day, early, but if it involves anyone else like the missus or my lad, we're more likely to be 20 minutes late. Yeah, my wife can make us late for everything. And so she does a thing now where has to go to the loo before we leave the house, regardless of how many times she's already been to the loo. And then if we're going somewhere that involves a gift for somebody, now it might be going to a birthday party and there's a birthday gift, it might be going around somebody's house and therefore there's a bottle of wine involved, I will guarantee that we'll be halfway there and my wife will just go, I've forgotten the gift. And we have to turn around. So we started out in pretty good time, but now we're running late. Always the same. Glenn Johnson says, sounds like my house. I think Andy Dovell liked the job over in Ohio, as did Dan Cullen. Now, that's some job. Fantastic high ridge team. Totally agree. Yeah, the guy on the scissor lift on water duties. Bit of a boring job, that, I would think. And I don't think I'd want to be doing it in the winter. Although, hopefully, with a bit of rain, maybe you wouldn't need it quite so much. Dan Cullen says, some job and some organisation involved. Totally agree. In answer to Gary Muirhead's question, I wonder if the SK 1300 demo machine is working down under yet. There were delays in delivery. There were delays in getting it set up, but the machine is just knocking off the rough edges as we speak. I'll be reporting back on that as soon as I possibly can. And incidentally, I don't know if I told you this, but I bumped into Terry Cornby on Thursday night last week. I'm hoping to restart the surgery with Terry in the not too distant future. And in absolute truth, he was the inspiration behind my column today, which is Progress, What Progress? It was actually talking to him that prompted that in my mind. So good morning, Terry, if you're watching, and thank you very much indeed for that. Kent Demolition says, according to my parents, I was born 2 weeks early, so I'm a fortnight early to everything. Can you apply that? If you arrive like half an hour late, can you say, well, I am half an hour late, but I'm also 2 weeks early? Does that work? Does anyone wear that? I can't see it myself. Jim Turner says these women who are never on time for anything. They never seem to be late when it involves going away on holidays to catch a plane. They can get their arse in gear then. Yeah. I mean, we are in the next couple of days. I think we're going to be booking our next cruise sometime back end of summer next year. And we've done those before, and you're allotted a time when you can get on board. I almost said the boat, the ship. You can get on board the ship between, I don't know, noon and 3 o'clock or whatever it might be. If we are allocated noon till 3 o'clock, I'll guarantee my wife will want us there for about 8:30. We can't do anything. We literally can't go near the ship because we're not in the allocated time. But she will still want that anyway. Dan Cullen says, I was born in the hospital with sliding doors, dropped on my head with a slippery-fingered nurse. Hence the craziness. That explains absolutely everything. Andy Darvell likes the Packer Jack. I have to say, no, not, hydraulic jacks exist. We're all aware of them. But that, to me, to me, and obviously completely different application, but when I saw that, I was reminded of the first time I ever saw the Sleipner system. The roller skates for excavators to get them around either from one end of a quarry or a mine to another, or to get them from one site to another. Roller skates for excavators. I remember looking at it and thinking, oh, that's bloody clever. And the first time I saw the Packer Jack system, I had exactly the same feeling. There is clearly somebody has seen a mine in operation or a quarry in operation and thought, there's a better way. I know, and came up with that. So, as Gary Muirhead says, very clever idea. 100% agree. Wow, that's some job, says Dan Cullen. At last, something great for the maintenance of your kit. Very good. Ken Hatcher agrees. Very good system. Yep. Now, I mentioned the fact that my wife would like to be in the bar 5 hours before we get on a plane. Chris Ford, not so much. 5 hours in the bar, and they've never let me near the plane. I have to admit, I'm quite surprised they let my wife near the plane sometimes. That's not true at all. My wife, both of us, used to drink to a semi-professional level. I had a health scare, had to knock it on the head. I'm away from it, haven't touched it in probably 15 years. So my wife drinks to both of us, and as a result, has built up quite the immunity to it. Now, I've got a comment here from YouTube. I don't know who they are or what they're saying. All I can say is, hopefully, good morning. Thank you for joining us. Hope you're being polite. I don't know, but thank you for being here. Graham Footy Williams enjoyed the music with the Al Grierson film. There is Dan Cullen agreeing. I love the tune. Jim Turner with a long old comment here. Now, what's he saying? My old fella used to be on a DMAG 241 face shovel. Remember them well. They needed a new race bed. It didn't last pissing time. Went through another couple before DMAG sent their own fitter over to oversee the job. Turns out they were lowering the top section down onto the track frame, where they should have been winching the race bed up to it. They chucked a winch with mount frame away each time, as they didn't know what it was. They chucked the winch mount frame away each time, as they didn't know what it was for. Yeah. A little bit of knowledge can be a dangerous thing, can't it? Now, there is a reference here to Gold Rush, which is a show I've never seen. Literally never seen an episode. Ken Hatcher says, you'll never see a bell on Gold Rush. Lol. I don't know. I don't know whether he's just stating that as a fact because they're big. I know they run Volvo excavators, so I don't know whether there is an in joke there or whether they actually run Bell trucks. I honestly don't know what Ken is on about because I've never seen it, and I've met a couple of the cast, but never actually seen the show. I know, but then I never saw Breaking Bad either, or Game of Thrones. What can I tell you? Bell are a great truck up on a par with Volvo, I think. Oh, there are certain parts of the world where that would be considered fighting talk, I would say. But good point. Jim Turner says, June, that's the one that I put with Al Grierson's film this morning. Very Euro. Yes, it was very Euro indeed. seems appropriate because, as I'm about to tell Dan Cullen, that film was from. It was shot by our man from Luxembourg, who was in Germany shooting it. So Euro seemed appropriate. There he is. Dan Cullen says, wow, some kit. And where was this? I'm fairly sure that was at the Kiesel head office in Germany. I can't remember exactly where in Germany they are. But yes, they had an open day. I have to admit, I would have gone there purely for the K-Tech machines, the high-ridge excavators that they're doing the conversion on. But Al, as Dan has just said, well done to Al. Yeah, please, if everybody could go over to Construction Channel Luxembourg, and there is a link to it, go over to that on YouTube at Construction Channel Luxembourg, hit the subscribe button. Al does some bloody good films, and he could do with some more subscribers. So please, people, go and give him a follow. We're going back to the female lack of punctuality again. My wife is the same, Jim Turner, says Gary Muirhead. We're going to Tenerife on Saturday. I did wonder when you were going. I knew you were going. I just didn't know when. Going to Tenerife on Saturday for a week of winter sun. And she's had the cases packed for 4 weeks now. See, now there's kind of a balancing act in my house. My wife will pack 4 weeks in advance. Not with everything, but certainly with certain supplies. She does love buying things like there's a new toothbrush every single time we go away. Like our teeth will suddenly change during the flight. So she buys all of that in advance, and she is always packed 2, 3, sometimes 4 weeks in advance. The flip side of that is when we get back, she arrives, she opens the case, gets out all the dirty washing, puts it through the washing machine, hangs it out. Mine can stay in the case for a good 4 weeks, to the point where I think there's an unpleasant sniff around this house, and I can't find any of my t-shirts. At which point I remember I brought the case back, stuck it in a cupboard, and that's where it stayed. Let's have a look. Andy Darvell says, that's how electric plant works properly. The cable drum system is fantastic. I think that was on the Devellon video. I don't think these Palestine marches are going to make any difference. I don't think protests make any difference at all. And unless anybody can come back at me with that. Yeah, her work ethic is amazing. Totally agree. And to have given up the chance of going to do, was it music education, the first Emily said, to go and be a welder and a fitter? Fair play. There we are, fair play to her. About time our industry became more inclusive to everyone, no matter what sex or who they bat for. Yeah, indeed. And I've said it before and I'll say it again. Why is it? And listen, as far as I'm aware, we are equally guilty of it, and maybe, just maybe, that is, well, no, I think this is more of a reflection on the industry. Our audience, the people that turn up for this every single day, are almost exclusively white and male. But I don't feel bad about that, because I don't believe that to be my or our fault. I think that is the industry. We don't have much in the way of ethnic minority representation in the industry, and therefore they're not here for the show. We don't have that many women in the industry, and therefore they're not here for the show either. We don't have virtually anybody from the LGBTQ plus community, and therefore they're not represented on the show. Still a long way to go, and all that takes me back to the article that I wrote over the weekend and that has gone up as my column today. Progress, what progress? There we are. Fair play to her. Go and chase your dreams, says Andy Darville. That's a lesson to live by, I would say. Peter McKenna arrived a bit late, but welcome as ever. Morning, Peter. Thank you for joining us. Who cares what gender they are, as long as they cut the mustard? Well said, sir. Now, there we are. Peter McKenna. As I say, I asked the question, can you remember? Any protest ever actually making a blind bit of difference? Peter McKenna says, just look at the just stop oil protests. What have they got? Extinction Rebellion? No, they didn't stop HS2. No, it took a weak-willed, lily-livered Prime Minister to do that. That's a whole other story. Peter McKenna says, it's written in law that we help member nations. If we didn't, countries wouldn't see us as allies anymore and would be targeted by more infidels than we do now. Andy Darvell. Obviously, Andy Darvell remembers David Cameron just as well as I do. Mr. Gammon. Yeah, absolutely. And here we are going off at a sharp left turn, as we so often do. UK stats show UK was second biggest arms exporter in the world from 2010 to 2019. £86 billion worth of arms sales. Almost 60% of sales went to the Middle East, with Saudi Arabia being by far the largest buyer of UK-made weapons. Played a central role in the Saudi-led bombardment of Yemen. Makes you proud, doesn't it? I don't drink tea or coffee or hot chocolate. Oh, I know what that was. I was talking about turning up early and having a quiet cuppa. So our friend Graham is a cold drinks man. My daughter Courtney, youngest daughter, exactly the same. Never drunk tea, coffee, nothing like that. And doesn't drink fizzy drinks either. Boring she is. Morning Mark says, morning Mick, good of you to join us. Thank you very much indeed for being here. Let's have a look. Peter McKenna says, we used to do Preston to Kent. Tip and reload back to Preston in 10 hours driving. Nowadays, you'd be hard pushed to get to Kent and halfway back in the same duration. Sundays in 2010, you could do Preston to central London in 4.5 hours. Now 5.5 to 6 hours for the same journey. Yeah, I listen, I totally agree. And I lost about 20 minutes at the beginning of my journey from Surrey to Birmingham. There's roadworks close to where I live, and I'd completely forgotten, found myself stuck in there. So that was partly my fault. But then I used to have, well, I still have two choices. I used to be a toss-up between the M1 and the M40. Like a lot of people, I think I use the Waze app now, W-A-Z-E, to try and give me a bit of advance warning of delays. The M1 looked chocker, and it's a little bit further away, so I went M40. But man alive, you used to get on the M40, stick the cruise control on, put it up to about 75 miles an hour, and you just crack on and really only apply the brakes if you fancy a cup of coffee or a pee. Now it's stop, start all the way, to the point where I was genuinely starting to worry that I was going to bump into the guest of honour on the way into his surprise party. Shocked to see you on Facebook and not LinkedIn. I'm on both, I think. Fairly sure. Peter McKenna says, I love boats, not been on one for 10 years. We haven't been one. We haven't done a cruise since the year before COVID kicked in. So 2019 was our last cruise. Did the Mediterranean. I think that's the plan again this time. Possibly a different route, but I say we love it. My wife loves it probably more than I do. But the idea of just arriving in Southampton, you get on board the boat, and you are on holiday. Bars open, restaurants open, it's all going on. And somebody else is taking care of the driving. Go to bed, not being out the sight land, and you wake up, and lo and behold, Barcelona's out your window. That's a good way to travel, I have to say. Used to do wreck fishing off the south coast. Yeah, I've done a bit of deep sea fishing, not really my cup of tea. Don't mind a bit of beach casting for the odd mackerel every once in a while, but I'm a coarse fisherman at heart. I watch and share Al's channel. Thank you, Peter. It's up there with some of the best construction channels that I already subscribe to. Yeah, and I have to say, one of the things that I like about Al is there is an intro. He does do an intro on this one, the review of the Kiesel Open Day. But by and large, it's just he goes to a job, and here's the job in progress. Go and have a look. Let's have a look. Yes, she's been told she cannot accept future invites into government positions. Suella Braverman actually gone. Really wish I had played Ding Dong the Witch is Dead now. Another fabulous show from Mark and Fred. Have a fantastic day, guys. Stay safe and well. Thank you very much indeed, Dan. Although I will tell you, on this instance, Fred's still tucked up in bed. Lazy swine that he is. Now, Gary Muirhead says, what about getting an interview with Lady Muck, the digger driver, on the show? Well, two things. I'm up for it, but I don't know who Lady Muck is. Now, I've heard of Lord Muck, who does a lot over on the agricultural side of things. but there is a lady monk as well. I did not know that. I need to go and do some homework. I sometimes worry that I spend too much time actually creating content and not enough consuming it. Possibly. Let's have a look. Dan Cullen. That's why I couldn't be bothered getting a license. So many people seem to get license from lucky bags. Driving nowadays is horrendous. As I say, let the train take the strain. Now, on my trip up to Birmingham on Thursday, under normal circumstances, that would have been a train job. But Fred was off to see one of his old uni mates to go and watch football and eat curries and stuff like that. So I thought, well, it'd be just as easier and a whole lot cheaper if I just drive, and regretted it almost from the time I set off. Am I going to do the show on the boat? No. I have in the past paid for the internet, but it is sketchy, it is slow, and it is not worth the hassle. So when I do go, and I think we're probably going for about 11 days, something like that. So no, there will be a gap in proceedings. I'll try and leave you something behind to keep you entertained, but I will be out of contact. Peter McKenna says, thanks for the show, Mark. Hopefully everyone will have a great day. Mind the wind and rain. If you know any Debbies, could be a stormy day with them today. Yes, it is Storm Debbie. And I must admit, I was a little surprised by Storm Debbie, because I thought we had Storm Kieran and then Storm Debbie, but I think I'd been only half listening to the news, and Storm Debbie was way away out in the Atlantic or something like that, and she's just pitched up. And some lovely Debbies over the years. This doesn't sound like one of them. The way I think it's something on WhatsApp to do with Iceland construction. Don't know what that is. Hang on, Dan. I thought you had a driving license, says Peter McKenna. I think I'll leave you guys to talk amongst yourselves on that, because we've been going for 1 hour and 4 minutes, and that is plenty for anyone. I'm going to be back here tomorrow, do the show, and off to Kent for a meeting, but I'll be here as per usual, with more of the same. So until then, as somebody said, who was it said? There you are, Peter McKenna. Make sure you staple your wigs on properly, wrap up nice and warm, and stay out of the rain, because Storm Debbie is on her way if she hasn't arrived already. Until tomorrow, everybody, go and have a fantastic day. Stay dry, stay safe. I'll see you all very soon. Thanks for your input. All the best.